Tour got around SWAC C Wells coming at you with another video today. Y'all make sure y'all lock in with us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and become a part of the SWAC Talk family by becoming a member. 99 cents gets you a membership to the YouTube channel. We have special perks coming at you. We're going to be dropping special members only videos and shorts. I'm going to have rants and reactions to different things that I want to put there. So if you want to get everything, man, become a member of the Swag Talk crew for 99 cents and get down, man. And so we're going to still be bringing y'all a lot of stuff, swag smoke and everything like that, and all our normal videos. But we also bring y'all that membership tier. So get down with that. Check out the Facebook and Instagram, both Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. And now let's get on with the show, man. Let's do it.
Welcome to the show, see bros, your guy. Wednesday, Sundays, catch the ride. Football hoops, we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. I wear sharp, we magnify. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays, heat, Sundays, ignite. We talking legends, shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays, heat, Sundays, ignite. We talking legends, shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
All right, everybody, what's going on, man? How y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of For Entertainment Purposes Only, where we take a very amateur look at the point spreads and over-unders for each week's games. This is week 3. Week 3 is probably not going to be as interesting as week 1 or 2 because we really have basically a ton of FBS games, and well, not a ton, but we have some FBS games and a lot of D2 games. We do have a couple of FCS matchups. We've got a BX SWAC matchup and a SWAC Big South OPC matchup, and SWAC South and a couple of SWAC Southland matchups. So we do have some nice non-conference matchups on the FCS level. Everything else is either D2 or FBS. So not a ton of games that really pique interest this week. A lot of teams are kind of branching out as we are still a couple of weeks away from full SWAC play, the games that actually count. So we are out of the doldrums of the non-conference conference games, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into this, man. We're not gonna waste any time. This is always a pretty quick show, so we're gonna get in and get out. The first game that we're gonna have on our list is Alabama A&M taking on Tennessee State. The Bulldogs coming off of a victory over Alcorn on Saturday. Tennessee State coming in off of a loss to North Dakota State. The Tigers are at home and they're a 3-point favorite in this game, over under 57. Tennessee State hadn't really scored a lot of points in either of their matchups. So that's kind of intriguing. Alabama A&M did score 41 in their only FCS matchup of the season. So that they've shown that they can score against a light caliber team. Like I said, Tennessee State had a game against North Carolina A&T where they needed a block field goal to win. And then of course they went down to North Dakota State. So two varying levels of opponents and two different results. Basically in two games they scored 27 points. So not much there. But I do think this game it does have the potential to get to that over under because basically the over under is 54. Excuse me, 57. So that's a um 28 21 type game. So, that can happen. That can happen. 28, 24, something like that. If you want to keep it with the 3 points or whatever. Um I I like the way the Bulldogs looked in the game Saturday. So I'm almost tempted to kind of go with the Bulldogs in this one, with the +3. I think they do have a chance. It's on the road though, so that's always something that you got to kind of navigate, especially early in the season. And Tennessee State does have some explosiveness with Kendrick Grimes at running back, but this should be a fun game. I think it can cross the over, and I think that 3 point spread is a fair spread. I think it's a great opportunity for Alabama and them to cover that spread. So I do think I do think that's a good one. So I don't have any issue with that one. Next up, this one is very intriguing to me, and these are not. I don't think these are kind of like made by guys using different algorithms and things. So I would really love to sit down and chop it up with them about this point spread in particular, um, because nothing really indicates to me that this should be the case, and that's Albany State is a 6.5. Is it 6.5? Albany State is a 6.5 point favorite over FAMU. I do not in any way, shape, or form see or agree with that. You can talk trash to FAMU all you want. You can have your beef with them and everything, but I don't see any way that this team is a 6.5 point underdog at home to Albany State, who has played good football to open up the season. They won their first two games in blowouts. They beat Shaw 51-7, and they beat Kentucky State 49-21. So they defeated you know they defeated their two opponents in pretty easy fashion, but I don't think FAMU has played that bad, especially, I mean, of course, they had a low scoring game against Howard where the offense really left something to be desired, but the defense played well. And then the next game was an FBS matchup. So I don't really think you can hold too much against them on either result. Enough for this to be a game where you think Albany State is almost a touchdown favorite on the road at that. Um, the over under is 54. So they're kind of expecting like a mid 20s type of game, but I FAMU's gonna cover that spread pretty easily. They're gonna win this game, so I don't even think that matters. Um, I don't know how much they're gonna score because I still have a lot of questions with the offense. RJ Johnson started to look a little bit more comfortable in the second half of the FAU game, but by that point, the game was decided. So we'll see. We'll see. But I just don't think that FAMU is at the point where they should be an underdog to a D2 team at home. Now maybe somebody put maybe somebody switched the spread by mistake. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with somebody put the numbers in the wrong spot. I'm definitely gonna ask somebody about that because I really want to know their rationale on that. If I get a response, I'll put it in my I'll put the response in my preview for this game on Wednesday. Next up we have Alcorn taking on Mississippi State. Bulldogs come in at 2-0. Braves are 0-2. Dropped two straight on the road. They're playing a third straight road game. I mean, Mississippi State they looked okay this season. They kind of ran away from Southern Miss in the second half of that game, and then Saturday Saturday they picked up another win against Arizona State, 24-20. So Arizona State was ranked number 12 at the time. I don't know if they're really a 12 ranked team at this point, but that's a that's a win over a ranked opponent. So Mississippi State off to a decent start right now. Um, so they're playing they're playing well enough, and so this gonna be a tough matchup for Alcorn. Alcorn did find some offense against Alabama A&M. The defense kind of the defense kind of was. I won't say they weren't up to par, but they gave up some pretty decent numbers to Quar Brown in that game. Um, Mississippi State, like I said, we're gonna we're not gonna go too deep into it because we're gonna say that stuff for the preview. But Bulldogs, like I said, they're passing the ball pretty well so far this season, averaging 279 yards through the air. So they've been doing pretty well offensively, um, running for about 126 yards. So I think this is going to be another one of those games where you just want to come out and play some clean football. So uh, the spread in this game is Mississippi State. They're favored. They're favored by 46 with an over under of 51.5. So this is pretty much being forecasted as all Mississippi State. Um, I it is these kind of games are what they are, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really have a lot to put into it. Um, I would take the over just because I think that, if Mississippi State gets the scoring, is gonna get there. And if Alcorn chips in some points, it's definitely gonna cross the over. So I definitely would take the over 51.5. I think they'll cross that unless something happens on the other side. Next we have Bethune-Cookman continuing their tough 3 game stretch to open up the season by going to Orangeburg to take on South Carolina State. Bulldogs favored by 17.5, 48.5 over under. Um, Bethune, they haven't really, they haven't had opportunity to do much. Like I said, they're 0-2. Uh, they played 2 FBS matchups. Hadn't scored a touchdown yet this year. South Carolina State is 1-1. They picked up a win over Wofford to open up the season in an ugly game, score wise. And then they played South Carolina Gamecocks on Saturday. Um, well, they did look competitive. They lost their game 38-10. So, they did some things. They gave us some big special teams plays that really hurt them. Gave us 2 special teams touchdowns, which I mean, obviously, who knows, what South Carolina would have did with the ball. They didn't run those punts back, but that's 14 points. Um, so you're potentially looking at a different ball game just on that factor alone. Gonna be another tough matchup for Bethune. Maybe they can get some offense going, being that this is a FCS opponent, but I don't think they're gonna get a lot. I don't. They're still looking for some. They're still looking for their pieces to come together on that offense, and the defense just hasn't had any opportunity to make anything happen. So I like those numbers. I think both those numbers are pretty fair. I think they both can beat. I think South Carolina State will win. Will beat the spread, and I think there's another game that will go over. It might be slightly over, but it's gonna go over. Um, the only way I see it being under is if South Carolina State doesn't play well offensively, and they make it a closer game than what it probably should be. But that's where we stand at this point. Next up, we have Kentucky State at Grambling. Bounce back game for Grambling. I mean, obviously, when they won their first game, 55-7, and then they lost 70-0 to Ohio State. Um, there's another bounce back game. So we still, this is um the second non-FCS game, the third non-FCS game of the season. So we don't really know what this team is. They did show some flashes against Ohio State in certain aspects. But obviously the disparity in talent and everything was huge in that game. I think they go back to that. Grambling is a 25.5 point favorite, over under 60. Um, I can see both those numbers being true to what they are. I mean, the last non-FCS team they played, they put 55 on them. Right now, this is not a NAIA team, so maybe it's tighter in the first half. But I think Grambling wins this game going away. Kentucky State, like I said, they gave up 49 to Albany State in their first matchup, and then they gave up. Then they beat Central State 34-24, so they're 1-1. But they've given up some points in both their matchups, and I think Grambling will be able to put some points on the board in this game as well. So I think both those numbers are fair. Like I said, I don't put too much stock into um, these non-FCS games. So I think Grambling wins this game pretty comfortably. Offense looks a lot better in this game, and I think they can cover the spread, and both teams will top that over under 60. I don't think it's gonna take a whole lot to get there. Next is Lincoln at Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff favored by 33.5. Lincoln is Lincoln. Pine Bluff, no matter what, coming off of 2 blowout losses, I think they can put up the points on this team. The over under is 61. I think they can beat the spread and both, and they cross the over under. Um, they may give up a touchdown or two because I don't think their defense is that great. But I can see this being one of those games where they score 50 points. You know what I'm saying? 50 to 52-14 or something like that. So I do think they can. I do think they can beat the spread. I do think they can cover the spread and top that over under. I don't think it's outrageous. I don't want to spend too much time on that game. Next up is Miles taking on Alabama State. The Golden Bears are coming into this game at 0-2. So they're still they're still looking for their first win. New coach and everything. They lost to Virginia Union 45-3 to open up their season. And then they lost to Edward Waters 46-14. So they've gotten blown out in their first 2 games. They faced a Bama State team that offensively can put the points on the board. Defensively, they look, they were opportunistic Saturday. They didn't necessarily look great, but they were opportunistic, forcing turnovers. And I think that's going to bode well for them in this game. The spread is 28, over under is 57.5. I mean, this Miles team, they typically do play a bit tougher against Bama State. I guess it's like a little motivation for them, but they've gotten blown out in their first 2 matchups. I don't think that's going to be different here. So I can see Bama State covering their spread, and the over under will be topped as well because I think they're going to put up some points in this game. They've scored 42 and 30 in their first 2 games. That's against a conference opponent and an FBS opponent. So I don't see any reason why they won't score at least 35 minimum against a team like Miles, who's given up 40 plus in their first 2 games. So I don't think I think Bama State names their score, so they're gonna that over under is gonna be shattered. Next up is Valley going to southeastern Louisiana. The Lions coming in this game at 1-1. Valley comes in at 0-1. I mean 0-2. Valley got basically manhandled by Tarleton State. Um, so they're looking for opportunity to get right, but they just struggle on the road in these kind of games. Southeastern, like I said, they're coming in at 1-1. They lost to Louisiana Tech 24-0. They beat Murray State 45-24. So they did bounce back for the FCS victory, scoring 42 points after not scoring at all against Louisiana Tech. So I think they're gonna be fine in this game against Valley. Valley, like I said, the spread they have the spread set at 30, 54 and a half, 54 over under. Again, Valley is, they're still trying to find their way. They're still trying to put some things together. This is a team in Southeastern that's shown that they can score points. Valley, you know, they couldn't get out their own way last week, so I see probably more the same. I think both those numbers are relatively fair. Again, if you cover the spread, if you Southeastern, then this game is probably going to top the over under. But it 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 like I said, I'm kind of hesitant honestly, but I'm gonna still pick the over here because I think this could be one of those games that like you know 42-7 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it could also easily be like 45-10, and that tops it. So um, not a lot there not a lot to make of it. So we're not gonna spend a lot of time on it. but that's where we stand with that one. We skipped. I did miss one, and that's Texas Southern and Lamar. Lamar coming in off of a big victory. Um, a big victory. So over South Dakota, over ranked South Dakota team, and so they're 1-1. TSU comes in 0-2. Played pretty tough against Cal on Saturday, but wasn't really able to get a lot going. But they did keep themselves in the game, and then they also had that close loss to Purdue. So still trying to figure out who this team is. They did play Lamar really tough last season. Probably should have beat them. The spread is 3. Um, so if you're looking at it from a perspective of emotion and soft factors, um, Lamar coming in off of a big upset victory, maybe they flying a little high. They might not be looking at things the right way. TSU coming off a couple tough games, maybe they bounce back. The spread is 3, so that means TSU has, that means they view TSU having a chance in this game. Over under is 46.5. TSU not a team that necessarily scores a lot of points at this point in the season. Um, 21 and what 3, and Lamar has scored 20 points on the season because they got shut out against North Texas. So neither team really has shown the propensity to score a lot of points at this point in the season. So I would honestly pick this game to be under. Uh, I think this game is gonna come in um, under the 46.5, probably just under, but I think it's gonna come in under. Lamar by 3 is fine. I think TSU got a chance with that spread. I think they can beat that if they play some solid football and give themselves a chance. But I do like those numbers, but I like the under better in that matchup. At least from where we stand right now. Next up is Prairie View taking on Rice. Again, 25 points is the spread. Over under is 46. So they're not really anticipating a lot of points. Prairie View scored 22 and 21 in their first 2 games. Both games basically came down um, to the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. Um, so they've shown that they can kind of hang around in games. They did make a quarterback change in the last game, but they've shown that they can compete and fight from behind, which is always good. Rice coming in at 1-1, they beat ULL 14-12, and then they lost to Houston 35-9. So kind of all over the place. Um, I think this could be a game that might be closer than what you may think. Um, because Rice, honestly, Rice is kind of all over the place. Um, I'm gonna pick Prairie View to beat this to beat this spread. I don't think they're gonna win, but I think they win. I think they lose by less than 25. Um, and right, honestly, right now, neither team has scored a ton of points. Um, but I tend to go over on the FBS matchups because I think if the game starts to drift a little bit, those second and third level guys on the FBS team gonna want to get their shine. So um, I typically look at those games as always gonna be over. So I do think it's gonna top the 46, but I think Prairie can keep it a little bit closer than the 25 if they can clean up a few things. Next up is Southern taking on Fresno State. Bulldogs favored by 38, over under 52. Right now, I think the bulk of that 52 is gonna be coming from Fresno because Southern can't get out their own way. I'm just gonna put it that way. They can't get out their own way. A ton of turnovers in a game that was close. I mean, it was a 7-6 game coming out early in the third quarter. It was a 7-6 game against Bama State. 2 turnovers led directly to 10 points. Um, Bama State kind of snowed them under after that, scoring 2 more touchdowns. Missed a field goal, so again, it could have been worse. But Southern two missed field goals and 4 or 5 turnovers. I lost count. But they can't stay out of their way. So that's either 6 or 7 turnovers in their last 2 games. 7 or 8 turnovers, counting their fumble against North Carolina Central. So they turned the ball over a ton in 3 games. Um, that doesn't bode well for a team to go up against a team that's coming in off of 2 straight wins. Fresno State beat Oregon State on Saturday 36-27 in Corvallis. They beat Georgia Southern 42-14, and they lost to Kansas 31-7. So, this is a team that's gonna, make it tough for Southern. Offensively, Southern just hasn't really been able to do a lot. So I'm hesitant to even put a lot into Southern on that side. I think this is one of those Fresno State names their score. Southern, if they can score anything, is a bonus because they haven't had a lot of positive momentum offensively. So I don't have a problem with either one of them. And again, like I said, the FBS matchup, so I think that over is typically gonna get beat because those guys come in that don't normally play gonna want to get some shine on. And so that's pretty much that's pretty much that. I don't, you know, not trying to be negative, man, but when you see what you see, sometimes you have to look at things from a perspective of what your eyes see, and not what what your brain or your heart sees. Sometimes you just gotta go with your eyes. And right now, my eyes are showing me some things that I don't like, and I can't justify anything more than that. Um, and so that takes us to our final matchup of the day. Um, if I can get this thing to pop back up. Jackson State is taking on Tuskegee. Um, Jackson State they have Jackson State favored by 18 and a half. I think it's gonna be worse than that. Um, obviously the offense hadn't fully clicked. I think I saw some what Jacoby and Morgan got shook up Saturday, but Jackson State is more than enough to do what they need to do against Tuskegee. Over under 47 and a half. I think they beat that. I think the over under is top. I think they go over that, and I think Jackson State wins this game by um more than 18 and a half. Tuskegee did beat Winston Salem in their first game 20-17, and then did they only play one game? Oh no, then they beat Central State 34 to nothing. So they are 2-0, and that's positive for them. But I think Jackson State wins this game going away. Especially if the running game is clicking. I think they win this game going away if they can do whatever they need to do to get it done. So that's our show for the day. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday to preview all these games. Um, and that's that, man. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Wells, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.